Thank you. I'm going to call to order the Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. I'm Jeff Baker. I'm the chair of DRCOG, and I welcome you all here. We're going to start this meeting like we start every meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. That's okay. We'll move into the roll call. Ms. Stevens.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. All right, here we go. Julie Duran-Mullica, Adams County. Kathy Henson, Adams County.
Here.
Jeff Baker, Arapahoe County.
Here.
Claire Levy, Boulder County. Austin Ward, Broomfield. James Marsh Holshin, Broomfield. Rebecca Lloyd, Clear Creek County. Adam Paul, Denver. Nicholas Williams, Denver. Here. Kevin Flynn, Denver. Here. Kevin Van Winkle, Douglas County. Abe Layden, Douglas County. Susan Behrman, Gilpin. Andy Kerr, Jefferson. Here. Sharon Davis, Arvada. Here. Allison Coombs, Aurora. Larry Vidham, Bennett. Roy Spindell, Bennett. David Spellman, Blackhawk. Nicole Spear, Boulder. Greg Mills, Brighton.
Here.
Deborah Mulvey, Castle Pines. Jason Gray, Castle Rock. Tim Dietz, Castle Rock. Tammy Maurer, Centennial. Christine Sweetland, Centennial. Zane Plasek, Central City. Robert Eber, Cherry Hills Village. Susan McGuire, Cherry Hills Village. Steve Douglas, Commerce City. Susan Noble, Commerce City. Michelle Rogers, Dacono. Adam Moorhead, Dacono. Steve Conklin, Edgewater. Here. Othaniel Sierra, Inglewood. Kim Wright, Inglewood. Emily Bayer, Erie. Linda Montoya, Federal Heights. Sarah Dawn Pearlstein, Federal Heights. Ray Bird, Firestone. Don Cognac, Firestone. Josie Cockrell, Foxfield. Here. Wendy Padilla, Frederick. Here. Georgia Kofed, Georgetown. Rich Barrows, Georgetown. Rachel Binkley, Glendale. Ryan Toucher, Glendale. Lisa Vitry, Golden. Here. George Lance, Greenwood Village. Dave Kerber, Greenwood Village. Chuck Harmon, Idaho Springs. Here. Brian Wong, Lafayette. Here. Jeslyn Sherzai, Lakewood. Here. Stephen Barr, Littleton.
Here.
Kat Bristow, Lockbuoy. Here. Marissa Harmon, Lone Tree. Thank you. Joan Peck, Longmont. Aaron Rodriguez, Longmont. Judy Kern, Louisville.
Here.
Thank you. Holly Rogan, Lyons. Mark Browning, Lyons. Colleen Whitlow, Meade.
Present.
Angela Bernhardt, Morrison. Adam Way, Morrison. Kathleen Bailey, Mountain View. Laura Dennis, Mountain View. Here. Nicole Sterling, Nederland. Richard Kondo, North Glen.
Here.
John Dyack, Parker. Terrence Kelly, Sheridan. Tara Biter Fleur, Sheridan. Lee Bernardo, Silver Plume. Neil Shaw, Superior. Mike Foster, Superior. Justin Martinez, Thornton. Roberta Ayala, Thornton. Sarah Nermella, Westminster. Claire Carmelia, Westminster. Bud Starker, Wheat Ridge. Darius Pakbaz, CDOT. Sally Chafee, CDOT. Bill Soroy, RTD.
Here.
All right, with that, Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum. Oh, I'm sorry, I believe I missed one. Was it? Oh, I didn't?
You called, she just.
Thank you so much. Well, welcome, Tammy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda? Mr. Rex, are there any changes to the agenda this evening? No, sir. All right, I would accept a motion to approve the agenda. Director Harmon and Director Starker seconded. So all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Our agenda is approved. So we do have a public hearing this evening. So once again, my name is Jeff Baker, Chair of the Denver Regional Council of Governments Board of Directors. This evening, DRCOG is holding a public hearing on the 2025 Public Engagement Plan. This public hearing of the Denver Regional Council of Governments is hereby convened. The purpose of this hearing is to provide an opportunity for all who are interested in the Public Engagement Plan to provide comments to the board. No decisions will be made and no actions will be taken today related to this public hearing. Receiving public comments is important to the board's decision-making process. Anyone wishing to speak should raise your hand if you're online using the Zoom interface. If you've joined by phone, press *9 to raise your hand. All comments received via email, DRCOG website, or in writing have been automatically included in the public hearing record. Comments received prior to this public hearing have been provided to the board. You should have those in front of you. I noticed that there were several. If you wish to submit written testimony to be included in the official record of the public hearing, please email it to the secretary after you speak. Board members are free to ask questions of those testifying. Carolyn Clam and Angie Shelburne, DRCOG staff, will now summarize the 2025 Public Engagement Plan. Good evening. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Baker and the rest of the board. My name is Angie Shelburne. I'm Public Engagement Planner for DRCOG, and tonight I'm going to co-present with my colleague, Carolyn Clam, who's Multimodal Planner for DRCOG. So tonight we're going to give you our update on the Public Engagement Plan, which we're excited to share. It's an important tool for connecting and collaborating with the community in thoughtful, consistent, and effective ways. But first, I wanted to kind of start with a quick refresher on what exactly is the Public Engagement Plan. It's a commitment and it's a guide. It's helping people understand what to expect and how to participate. It also helps people understand the best ways to get involved, whether that's attending a public hearing, submitting online comments, or joining an advisory committee. And lastly, it also explains how public input connects to policy and how that feedback helps shape the outcomes. It's also a practical guide for staff. It lays out expectations and why they matter. It also shows the key legal requirements so staff understand when and how they need to do engagement and for who. And lastly, it helps with strategies and tips for success so staff understand how to tailor engagement for each of their audiences on their projects. So why are we updating this plan? A lot has happened since it was adopted in 2019 and amended in 2021. Technology has advanced a lot since the COVID pandemic, so we have to refine and update our virtual strategies to go with that. We also have many new plans and programs that we continue to learn and refine engagement strategies for. And lastly, we also just have improvements to always make our engagement more meaningful and more effective. So as you can imagine, I feel like this isn't working. As you can imagine, a lot went into performing this update. We looked into best practices from our peer organizations to see kind of what's working best right now and also how to strengthen our approach. Our staff has been working on this throughout multiple departments over the past year to continue to contribute and refine to create this document to be more relevant, practical, and forward-looking. We also promoted this to the public. Over the last 45 days, we had our public input comment period online, and then tonight, of course, the public hearing, because we want to make sure that the public has an opportunity to contribute to this plan as a shared collaboration. As a result, we hope to have a clearer, more actionable plan that not only reflects current standards, but also helps create a better connection between DRCOG staff and the overall community. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Carolyn to go over the plan's highlights and our next steps.
Great. Yeah, Angie introduced me briefly, but I'm Carolyn Clam, a multimodal planner at DRCOG. Thank you, everybody, for having me. All right, yes, to go over plan highlights. So this is one of the pages from the section of the public engagement plan highlighting our steps for public engagement. These steps were part of the previous public engagement plan, but through staff workshops, we learned that they were not really being leveraged. So we reworked them to be more active and invite brainstorming better engagement strategies from staff. You can see the list of steps graphic on the right and a sampling of the more detailed information that comes under each step on the page on the left, alongside a tip for success, which is a theme throughout the plan. Another thing we heard in staff workshops was that staff wanted more tools for engagement. We had also heard from external partners that engagement metrics were extremely important. So these conversations resulted in this section. This is a part of a chapter dedicated solely to engagement techniques, materials, metrics, strategies, more active how-to guide. These pages are a sampling of techniques we included, along with some tips for success, again, scattered through among the list. The original public engagement plan had a large focus on transportation planning and did not have as many resources for the many varied programs that DRCOG has, including information on the AAA, information on regional planning, and among other things. And so those other programs didn't have as much resources in the plan. So we sought to change that in this update. So we split topic-specific information into its own chapter. These pages include, well, the pages shown on screen include the information on regional planning in the plan. And finally, I'd like to highlight one of the plan's appendices. So throughout our workshops and research, we often stumbled upon useful public engagement and communication resources that were a bit out of scope for the plan to include in the plan itself, but we wanted to compile them so they could still be useful to staff. So we compiled them here in this appendix. That way staff could reference them in their own work if they deemed it appropriate or if they were seeking additional resources on how to promote better engagement. So the timeline for this plan update is on the screen here. What led us here, so we had initial scoping and review about this time last year. We spent a few months talking to internal staff, talking to peers, doing research, and yeah, doing that outreach to get a better sense of what the best engagement practices, the state of practice could be. Then after that, we spent several months developing the document itself. And then finally, we have the public review period and this public hearing at the end of June, where our timeline ends in the graphic. So in terms of next steps, we will continue to compile comments and incorporate any necessary edits from after we hear from the public. And then after that, it will go through the committee official approval process, and those dates are listed here. It would be TAC, Transportation Advisory Committee, July 28th, Regional Transportation Committee, August 19th, and then Board, August 20th. So thank you guys very much, and we're happy to take any questions.
All right, we're going to open it up for public comment first, but hang tight just in case any of the board members have any questions. The hearing is now open to those who have signed up to speak. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to testify. If you've not finished by the end of 3 minutes, I will be rude and ask you to conclude your remarks. We respectfully ask that you not repeat specific points made by prior speakers. A simple statement of agreement with prior testimony is acceptable. It's very acceptable and appreciated. So first we'll go online. Melinda, is there anyone who has raised their hand to indicate that they would like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I don't see a hand raised, so I don't know if you want to give it a little bit of time.
We'll go back to that. Is there anybody in the room that has either signed up to speak or does want to speak? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised in the room. Have we got any hands online?
No, we do not.
All right. I will go ahead and I'll say it. Are there any questions from the board? Yes. Director Harmon from Lone Tree.
Can you hear me? Oh, good. Hi. As I was reviewing the public comment that was submitted, one of the suggestions was to host something for the Civic Academy. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate place, but I took the Citizens Academy, which is now the Civic Academy, but it was such a great way for community members who are engaged and passionate about the work we're doing here at COG to continue to champion it out in the community. And so if we could have some sort of an annual reunion with maybe a presentation about what the board has been up to the last year, I think it could be a great way to be able to just push some positivity out into the neighborhoods and the region about the great work that's being done here. So I would highly support that.
Thank you, Director Harmon. Director Kondo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In fact, Mayor Harmon, you asked the question that I was going to ask, so I'm going to go to my second question. And that is in regards to the response from public comment number one, last sentence there. It looks like what they're trying to do is gather some information on the respondents to make sure that they are indeed the segment that you're looking for. I wondered if you had some thoughts about that, because when I look at your slide 8, talk about identifying potential participants, is that to verify or vet that this is indeed the group of stakeholders that you want to sample their opinions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, can you repeat the comment you're referencing? I don't have it in front of me.
Yes, so comment number one, I'll just read the last two sentences. It says, to ensure proper implementation, a vetting system should be introduced requiring additional information such as voter registration, residential address, or license details to submit comments. While this measure may initially appear to introduce equity concerns, safeguards could be put in place to guarantee that such information would not be required for individuals attending in-person events, maintaining inclusivity across participation methods.
Yeah, and your question was, you were concerned about how that fits into the steps for public engagement?
Yes, how does that fit into your protocol?
Yeah, as of right now, I don't believe we have specific requirements in that way. Our region is so wide and expansive, it can be kind of hard, it can sometimes be quite hard to pick and choose. I do appreciate the public's note that sometimes we really need to make sure we're talking to the right residents and the right people. As written in the public engagement plan, as it stands right now, our guidance is to reach out to community leaders, organizers, to get that neighborhood connection and that more personal connection as a source of verification instead of asking for forms of identification like a government ID.
I understand. Yeah, as a council member in North Glen, I sometimes get emails and it's like, I have no idea where this email is coming from. Is it a resident? Is it somebody in Virginia, which we've had, which is very interesting, but that's another story. So that's my chief concern, is just making sure that, yep, the input that you're taking is indeed coming from your targeted local stakeholders.
Yeah, that's an important note. We'll go back through and see if there's any good opportunities to emphasize that in the plan.
Thank you. And I would just say, if we did have any public comment here tonight, I would probably ask for them to give us their name and the community that they're from just before they offered any public comment. But thank you. Any other questions or comments from board members? Right. Do we have anybody that has raised their hand online? Hey, with that, this brings close to tonight's public hearing. Thank you for any testimony, questions, comments, and we thank you for your interest. The public comment or the public hearing is closed. We're going to move on to report of the chair. I have a feeling that this section will go pretty quickly. We're going to have a report of the Performance and Engagement Committee, Director Kondo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. P&E did not meet today, but I would like to give you a status update. As you're well aware, we are considering, in lieu of a off-site next year, that we are busily working, and when I say we, it's mostly the staff, is earnestly working on a field study or a fact-finding trip. So I just wanted to give you a sense of the 3 locations that are up for consideration: Austin, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, and Seattle, Washington. And as I was having dinner with a couple of our colleagues, they wanted to make sure that, say, for example, we weren't going to go to Phoenix in the summer.
We are not.
Do you like the heat, Madam Mayor? Or for that matter, going to Seattle in the winter. So again, those are the 3 locations, and obviously we're trying to figure out how to make this work from a financial standpoint. So clearly, as you're starting your budgeting and planning, and if you are so interested in going on this trip, that perhaps maybe you want to sock away some money in your travel budget for 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kondo. Report of the Finance and Budget Committee, Director Sherazai.
Yes, thank you. We did not meet since our last board meeting, so no report.
Thank you very much. Report of Executive Director Rex.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I don't know if you noticed with the back room opened up. You ever wondered what was back there? Now you know. It's I think it's awesome. I wish we had that open more. I wish there was a little more color on this side, to be honest with you, but it's kind of nice. What? So anyway, looks huge. Yeah, right, 100%. All right, just a few things from me tonight. So Bike to Work Day, 1 week from today. Importantly, probably more importantly right now, is that if you ordered merchandise, you should have received that when you walked in the room. If you showed up a little late, we do have them in, there's a box in back that's alphabetical order with your purchase. So if staff doesn't bring it to you, please, if you did order, go see staff anytime during the meeting or after and get that merchandise. It's cool stuff this year. I really like the logo. I think the hat's really nice. Oh, there you go. Put that sucker on. Right? Yeah, I think it's good looking.
Could you come up to the front just so?
Oh, shoot. So, but you know, there's people are not here tonight. We'll be shipping those out if they're not collected. So we'll get them out in time for the big event next week. Let me see here. The last thing I would just want to mention, I want to thank you all so very much. As Nisha mentioned last month, just want to thank you in advance for helping promote this event. We're obviously very proud of it. It's the second largest of its kind in the country. And Nisha promises me Chamber of Commerce weather like we always do, so hopefully we get that. I do remember one year, though, when we were at the old building. It was absolutely gorgeous in the morning, and we had typhoon rains in the afternoon on the way home. I don't know if you all remember that, but it was seriously, it was thigh-high water running down 13th Street. It was unbelievable. Anywho, not this year. Not this year. All right, okay, here it is, award celebration. So just a reminder, award celebration, if you don't already know, is on August 27th at the Sewell Ballroom. Please, if you haven't already done so, claim your complimentary registration now using the link on the flyer that's at your tables. We would also really appreciate your consideration from your communities on a table. Very reasonable price, we believe, at $1,200. Is it 8 or 10 seats? 8 eight rounds. So we really like to do it. We're about halfway to our sponsorship goal right now. So, all the awardees know, so this is really when we start to turn things up and we start to see some sponsorship dollars coming in. So, but we really would appreciate and try to get as many of our community tables out there so that we can, express all the, acknowledgement and recognition of the great work that you and your staff do within your community. If you have any questions, please just let Steve Erickson know or anybody on staff back there. We're happy to help. A couple more things for you this evening. The first I want to mention, I had the privilege of going to Seattle this past few days last week for the National Association of Regional Councils annual summer conference. We had perfect weather, by the way. It was the upper 70s, not a cloud in the sky. It was wonderful. It's very Seattle-like, but it was great to be there. We had a great opportunity to talk with peers, and as Director Kondo mentioned, we are considering for a peer exchange 3 communities. I had an opportunity to reach out and talk to the executive directors of those 3. They're all excited to have us if we decide to go that direction. So we'll be sharing more information with the Performance and Engagement Committee next month. And associated with, we'll start to kind of, back envelope cost in that too, so that so you can begin with your budgetary process as well. So stay tuned for that. Earlier today, in this very room, we had our annual Employee of the Year celebration. We've been doing this for a tremendously long time. If you recall, in our main suite up on the 7th floor, the wall with the main entrance, there's like these cubes, like kind of, you'll see those are all names of past winners of the Employee of the Year. It's called the Richard Schweider Employee of the Year. Richard was a DRCOG staff member for 46 years. And so we seem to be appropriate to name it after him. So we started the celebration with basically going through the accomplishments by team and division and the wonderful work that they did over the past year. We had 8 nominees that were selected by their peers in the agency, and ultimately there was a winner that was selected, and someone you probably know, Robert Spots. Robert, stand up. Be recognized, sir. And in the comments associated with his nominee, it talked. Listen, we all know that is Robert and all the stakeholders in this region were successful in getting a carbon pollution reduction grant of $200 million that you'll hear a little bit more about tonight. But it was really, I think, what really resonated with the senior management team that ultimately select the winner. We vote independently on that, is the amount of stakeholder outreach, the herding of cats associated with a grant of this size, and then not only getting the grant, but then implementing it to this point has been unbelievable. And that's due in part to Robert, and I know what he would say is that he has a very strong management team, and he does. And we're so appreciative of all the work that's being done in this area. And again, like I said, you'll hear a little bit more from Clay tonight about a proposal. Let me see here. Last but not least, I mentioned this last month, but so this is Ron Papsdorf's last meeting. He's our Transportation Planning and Operations Director. He's moving on. He's going to be the Chief Transportation Officer. He's basically running the MPO like he does here down in Houston-Galveston area. And we did a little tribute for Ron. We had a little going away for him. And I'll tell you what, AI is a wonderful tool. So this is... Yeah, this is Texas Ron, and so yeah, I'm sure. I mean, he actually looks comfortable in that. That's the thing. I'm a little concerned. So I'm from Michigan. Well, anyway, Ron, I just want to obviously wish you the best, and I know we're going to keep in touch and all that kind of good stuff. So appreciate you, man. All right, that's my report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. And I encourage any of the directors, before he leaves the room, if you want to stop by and say congratulations to him, that would be great. I know that we all will miss him here. I'm going to now open up general public comment unrelated to the public hearing. Up to 45 minutes is allocated now for public comment, and each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. If there are any additional requests from the public to address the board, time will be allocated at the end of the meeting to complete public comment. The chair requests that there be no public comment on issues for which a prior public hearing has been held before the board. Consent and action items will begin immediately after the last speaker. Is there anybody in the room that would like to address DRCOG Board of Directors? Not seeing anyone coming to the podium or raising their hand. Do we have anybody online?
We do not, Mr. Chair.
All right, then I will close our public comment section and we will proceed on to the consent agenda. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to look at the 2 items under the consent agenda. The summary of the May 21st, 2025 meeting is attachment B, and the amendments to the 2026-2029 Transportation Improvement Program is attachment C. Are there any discussion, any comments, questions from Board of Directors? I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. I have, all right, motion made by Kevin Flynn, seconded by Mayor Starker. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? All right, we're done with the consent agenda. We have one possible action item concerning discussion of possible HVAC licensure program. This is attachment D in your packet. Tonight we'll have Clay McComb, Manager of Transportation Planning and Operations, give us an overview of this. Okay, I'll have Executive Director Rex kick us off.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. And yeah, so I wanted to just kind of give a little bit of a preamble to this conversation tonight. And this truly is a conversation with you all. We have it listed as an action item, just provide some flexibility and latitude as to what you might want to do with this item. So as you know, as part of our carbon pollution reduction program, we have a workforce element of this, and Clay is very active in this space. And, you know, he's reached out to, you know, HVAC industry and contractors to try to get an understanding of, you know, what would really help make this field more appealing. And you know, some of the things that we've heard from the contractors is related to licensing, because right now, as licensing is done, I'm stealing your presentation, Clay, I know that. But so part of the licensing is done by entity, by community right now, right? There's not state licensure like there is for plumbers or electricians and the like. So we wanted to bring this to your attention tonight and just have a conversation about what options might be available for us moving forward. And, you know, one of those options is do nothing, right? And that's perfectly fine, because we understand this is not a traditional role for DRCOG, although it is very highly related to the work that we're proposing as part of our carbon pollution reduction program. So I'll leave it there. I'll turn it to Clay. Just so you all know, Clay got a fresh new haircut for you tonight, has a suit on that I've never seen before, and he's looking sharp. So go ahead, Clay.
Well, thank you for that introduction, my word. Hello, everyone. My name is Clay McComb, like Doug said, and I'm the program manager for workforce and industry development, recently hired to help implement the building decarbonization program here at DRCOG. I'm extremely thrilled. I was part of the application, actually, so I've been thinking about these programs and this work for almost 2 years now at this point, and it's finally real. This is so exciting. I care so much about this work and the people doing it. A little bit of info on the HVAC industry. That's heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration. Trying to say the R now too, HVAC R. A little bit of information about that industry. It is highly projected to grow significantly higher than the average careers in Colorado. 16% growth is projected over the next 10 years in this industry in Colorado, as is without accelerator programs like ours. So with our program, we expect an increase of contractors in this industry to go up to 30% over the next 5 to 10 years. So there's going to be a whole influx of new workers in this industry, and our big concern is making sure that those workers have all the tools and resources necessary to make safe and quality installations for consumers. A few quick facts about our program. We plan to distribute 40,000 incentives for heat pump appliances in the next 5 years. We plan to fully retrofit 1,600 low-income homes completely for free to the homeowner with new appliances and better air quality conditions inside. And for my program, I'll humbly brag that we plan to add 3,800 new workers to the industry who have had no experience previously whatsoever. And so we have a lot of exciting investments happening. When it's all said and done, we'll invest $200 million into this industry. When you pair that with complementary programs like Xcel Energy's Clean Heat Plan, which is close to $400 million, and Colorado Energy Office tax credits, it's close to $1 billion in this specific HVAC-R industry in the next 5 to 10 years. That is so incredibly exciting, but it also brings up potential for risk and harm. And we're just going to explore some of those options in the current landscape of Colorado here. All right. As Doug had mentioned, Colorado does not license its HVAC technicians or practitioners at the state level. We do regulate our electricians at the state level with one state license. Same goes for our plumbers. But for these technicians, it is licensed at the jurisdiction level. That license requirement is different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So depending on where a resident might live, they might have a different set of requirements, training, and overall experience that their contractor would have coming into their home. Additionally, there is just a large workforce shortage. That's why I was hired, to help fill that labor gap. And a lot of times, the administrative burden can lead to unregulated and inefficient and unsafe installations, which is unfortunate but does happen from time to time. And there are multiple opportunities to address these issues, including leaving it as is, as we said. Again, the goal for today, just to discuss opportunities for conducting, for DRCOG conducting local government and industry outreach to get feedback on how to streamline the licensure process for these practitioners. We'll also be evaluating the opportunity for DRCOG to lead an application to the Department of Regulatory Affairs that accepts sunrise reviews, professions and occupations that the public feels should be regulated at the state level. They also do sunset reviews on regulating professions at the state level. And so what we're exploring is if DRCOG would lead an application to simply encourage DORA to do 6 months of review. So not submitting anything, just for the rest of 2025, do a comprehensive review of this industry and then come to a conclusion. You might ask yourself, why would DRCOG do this? What role do we have? As I said, we are investing significantly into this industry, $200 million. I believe that it's not just an exciting opportunity for better air quality, but we also have a moral and ethical responsibility to ensure that the profession that we're investing in has the right guardrails in place to do their job properly. Additionally, this would be a win for the blue-collar worker. When I do talk to contractors, which is pretty often, you know, we'll see some case studies here, but being licensed in every jurisdiction and renewing that license every year, it does take some time for the contractor. And for the large companies, that's not that big of an issue with admin staff at the office, but for the small mom and pop shops, you know, doing a license renewal while you're on I-25 on your way to the next job. That's often what happens, or having your spouse call your local permitting office to renew the license for you. These are real examples that I've heard from permitting offices across the DRCOG region. Why DRCOG though? I do believe that having 59 jurisdictions and incredible engagement with these jurisdictions, if we were to lead this proposal, we would have an opportunity to really create a grassroots solution that really highlights local licensing and priorities, making sure that local control stays where it is and that we can increase safety opportunities while keeping control where it should be. Right. Colorado is in the minority of states that don't regulate this profession. We have one of 17 states that does not have a state licensure program. And right now, we do have local permitting offices that work with DORA on electrical licenses and plumbing licenses. So if you're going to do electrical work in one of your jurisdictions, individuals, practitioners, electricians are still required to submit their state license to the local permitting office in order to be allowed to do work there. And as I've said, many contractors maintain dozens of licenses at one time in order to do work in Colorado. Risks of the current landscape. Limited jurisdiction capacity can lead to uninspected work. When we're talking about this profession, heat pumps is obviously what we're very excited about, but this profession is largely a natural gas industry. And when we're talking about someone coming into your home and uninstalling or installing a gas appliance with carbon monoxide, refrigeration, we want to make sure that they are trained to do that and have the right certification and licensing to handle those dangerous materials. Smaller jurisdictions, just from the stakeholder engagement I've conducted, may be subject to unpermitted work from time to time. One smaller county's permit technician estimated that 50% of their HVAC work goes unpermitted. And again, this is from real feedback I've gotten from chief building officials. And then when equipment is installed wrong, it does lead to higher utility bills. Oftentimes, equipment will be oversized for a house, which means it's a bigger unit than a house truly needs, which could be inefficient, wasting energy, and increasing utility bills. Here's a case study from a small business owner in Broomfield, Colorado, Cornelio Martinez, or he goes by Corn, hence Maze Mechanical. If you're familiar. Corn is licensed in 20, and he actually corrected me, it's over 25 different jurisdictions at one time to serve his territory in Colorado. And majority of those licenses do require an annual renewal that he often hears about through an email reminder. He said he has missed some of those email reminders in the past. He says email is not his strong suit, HVAC is. And that can lead to penalty fees, unfortunately. This is Corn with his daughter doing his own little bring your daughter to work day. He made sure that I clarify he's not breaking any child labor laws here. A great photo op and hoping to bring his daughter into the family business one day. And he himself testified that he feels that when he's doing work in the smaller jurisdictions, there are less hoops to jump through, which some contractors like, that there's not a lot of, verification of training and certification. But he feels, he wants to elevate the whole industry and increase the quality of work because that'll mean more business for him. All right, so we do have some options here. I'm going to use Boulder County as an example of something that does happen across the region, which is called reciprocal licensing. So reciprocal licensing is a concept where instead of applying for a license in a local jurisdiction, you can submit a license from another acceptable jurisdiction. So for example, if I wanted to, or if a technician wanted to do work in Boulder County and they were already licensed in Castle Rock, for example, or North Glen or Trinidad or Delta, they could simply submit that license and they would not have to apply for a new license with Boulder County. Those licenses overall, when we get down past reciprocal licensing, it's normally an exam called the ICC, International Codes Council. the F29, F32, or G29, if you want to get really technical, master mechanical license. And so we believe that should stay in place. Those are good exams to be taking, but verifying that your technician has taken them, I doubt that happens in every household. Reciprocal licensing does happen in many jurisdictions. I promise, if anyone wants to quiz me after this presentation on what your jurisdiction does, we've done research for over the last year on every jurisdiction in Colorado up to a certain population. And oftentimes, reciprocal licensing is just necessary because of the workload that does fall on the permit technicians. What I have heard also, Edgewater, I believe, got a reciprocal license once that a chief building official wrote on a napkin and said, "This technician is permitted to work in our jurisdiction." True story. No offense, if Edgewater's in the, right here, okay. It wasn't, Edgewater didn't write the napkin. It's something that was submitted to them. So we have reciprocal licensing. The concept of a state license is kind of like a reciprocal license, is something that all the jurisdictions would accept and still need to submit as they would currently. So when we talk about a state license, it's really just a floor level. Right now that floor does not exist. There are jurisdictions in the DRCOG region where if I want to install furnaces, gas furnaces, where we're lighting fuel on fire, you actually don't need any type of mechanical certification. You just need a business license, which means if I started a muffin selling business, I could go to this jurisdiction and install a gas furnace in your home, which to me just seems very interesting that's allowable. Contractors would still need to register, as I said, with local jurisdictions. And on top of that floor license that would be agreed upon, jurisdictions that want to add additional requirements can always add more. We see that with electrical licenses and plumbing licenses. You can always add more requirements. It's just that floor of certification and safety that we would be discussing. Additionally, I found it interesting that with electrical licensing, DORA offers their permit verification and enforcement as optional to jurisdictions. If a jurisdiction wants to continue enforcing on their own, they can elect to do so. But if they want more support due to limited capacity, they can elect to receive that help from the state. Benefits, reduced burden on the blue-collar worker is namely what I hear. I've had grown, big, burly HVAC contractors come up and hug me just for talking about this because of what a joy it would be to their day-to-day operations. Comparable standards that emulate reciprocal licensing, like I said. Flexibility for jurisdictions to use the state system or continue with their own system as long as it's not below that floor. Providing more resources to local licensing offices. Chief building officials in the DRCOG region have told me this would actually help their business operations, more support. Standardized quality and consumer protection, and board membership. Regulation would be managed by a board, and that board is made up of a few DORA members if we went the DORA route, but it's also made up of chief building officials from local jurisdictions and journeyman contractors from that industry too. So there is, I feel, adequate representation. The last thing that's not on here is actually workforce related. When there's a state license for an occupation, it opens up the opportunity for registered apprenticeships. There are not registered apprenticeships for HVAC in Colorado, and that makes my work very difficult because I have a job to get 3,800 new workers, fresh out of high school workers, individuals that are new to Colorado, getting into jobs, and that's hard without a registered apprenticeship with expected wage increases. And so this would absolutely help the workforce and getting people into jobs. Next steps, the opportunity for sunrise applications happens every 6 months. So anyone can submit an application in the first or second half of the year. And then following that application, the DORA team would do a 6-month review of that occupation. So the deadline for this year, July 1st, coming up in a couple of weeks. If DRCOG is to submit an application to DORA, the next 6 months would go into review, stakeholder engagement, probably a lot of public comment as well, and then DORA would give their recommendation whether to or not regulate this profession. I'll say that this is not the only way things can get regulated. DORA did a sunrise review for dietitians last year, for example, and this particular department, after their review, said that the state should not regulate dietitians at the state level, and the applicant decided to write the bill anyway and propose it, and it actually passed this last legislative session. And so this is not the only approach. The DORA route, you know, Doug and I have talked about this, and I have extensive research, and so, you know, there's opportunities around that, but this is a traditional way of getting something regulated at the state level. And then there would be a phase-in approach too. If this did pass in Colorado General Assembly, there would be probably a year of phasing in existing contractors, so we're not impeding their business in any way, shape, or form. Okay, I probably went over time, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Questions? I see one. I can't see your name tag, sorry. And I'm blanking on your name.
John.
Okay, great. Director Martinez.
Have there been previous legislative efforts to establish a statewide licensure program? And, you know, obviously it didn't pass, but do you know of the history about that?
I do, yes. All of Sunrise applications are actually publicly archived on the website. So when I was researching this a year and a half ago, I saw the last DORA attempt here was in 1995. And that did not pass. The state felt that there was not an imminent safety threat that required state regulation at that time. I would say 30 years has passed and the technology has advanced pretty significantly, as well as the investment. I don't think we were investing $1 billion into the industry in the 90s. And so that's the public archived recent attempt, but I have heard in the last decade or so, labor unions like Local Pipe Fitters 208 have discussed it. Local Sheet Metal Union 9, Associated General Contractors have all talked about it. Nothing has quite come to fruition. And reasons I've heard is just wondering who would submit the application, getting support, wondering what local offices would say, getting the support from local jurisdictions was something that they hadn't really done, the stakeholder engagement. And so, again, that's why I feel this opportunity would bring a grassroots solution here.
So if there was in 2026 a bill that came out that established this licensure program statewide, how would that change your approach that you've outlined here?
My approach to workforce development, or
just the approach of this program?
Yeah, I absolutely think that it would send a better message. A lot of our messaging is going to consumers and contractors. And number one, if we were able to ease the business operations of the contractor industry, I think that would win a ton of goodwill for DRCOG and the trades, saying that we're an ally to them. But for the consumer, I think the message would be, you shouldn't have to live in a certain jurisdiction to be able to count on safety when it comes to your contractor. I think we all assume when you get a plumber or a contractor coming in that they're qualified, but unfortunately they're not all the time. And I think we owe it to our consumers to be able to give them that peace of mind.
Director Levy.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and fantastic suit. And really nice haircut too. The shave could use a little work. Just kidding. So the benefits of this seem very, very obvious to me. You know, I think everything you laid out makes a whole lot of sense. I wonder a little bit about how you've described the way DORA would approach this, and that this would be sort of optional, and that the local government could still require licensure. So, and it seems like if that's available, then we don't really get the benefit, at least the contractors don't get the benefit of having this statewide system. Is there, you know, I mean, we don't want to take local control away. That would be the last thing we would ever want to do. But But I guess I worry that what this could just do is layer a whole additional layer of regulation and licensure requirement on companies that are already having to do all this stuff all over the state.
That's a great point. I think one of the key efficiencies that would come out of this is license renewals. Having to renew 30 licenses a year versus just doing it once a year, I think would be an increased efficiency from feedback I've heard. Those renewals also, it varies in how quickly that gets turned around, which can sometimes lead to losing a job if it takes too long for a certain jurisdiction. Additionally, I will say, yes, you will need to submit your state license. Either way, just as it is now, you need to submit either a reciprocal license or apply for one in that territory. But it would be the same requirement at the floor level across all jurisdictions. And so right now, I think the confusing part is that it's varying requirements across jurisdictions and keeping track of what paperwork you need. This jurisdiction, I have to submit hours. This one I don't. This one I need my mechanical license. This one I need my G29. Having the same requirements would complicate things significantly less from what we've heard.
If I could, so maybe I didn't understand what you were saying earlier. In your presentation, your slide says that there'd be the option to opt out if a local permit office prefers to handle their own operations. I read that to mean that they could have continue to require licensure and renewal and their requirements, and so a contractor could continue to have all of those at the various local governments plus a state license that they have to take care of.
That was more in terms of the enforcement of making sure work is permitted and that it's permitted by licensed technicians. And so DORA does offer that support to jurisdictions, but if a jurisdiction wanted to do their own enforcement, they could opt into that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I have Director Davis, then Director Mulvey, and then Director M. Harmon. But first, Director Davis. Here we go.
Here, no. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I had a lot of questions before, Justin. You asked them, and so did you. But so you did talk to the local 208, the pipe fitters, and local 9 for the sheet metal workers. They have the robust apprenticeship programs. Would that be something that we could roll in this license for the current folks, you know, in 2026 who are going through those apprenticeships? They issue certificates for their program. I'm also wondering about the programs that they have at Warren Tech and at Red Rocks. How are we rolling those in? And inspector training. So now we have inspectors who've been in the job for 30 years. Are they going to be required to have this license so they can inspect those who are licensed? I see where that could be an issue too, because you know it's difficult to have somebody review your work that doesn't know what the work is. So that's a couple of questions that I have. And then ramp up time. You said 1 year, and I don't know how many HVAC technicians there are across the state, but seems like a year in licensing them, which I'm assuming is going to be some sort of a test or Q&A of some sort to make sure that they know what they're doing. Like a year might be very ambitious, but thank you.
Yes, of course. Okay, so a lot of questions there. Let me make sure I got them all. As far as, you know, engaging in apprenticeship programs with local pipe fitters 208 and Smart Local 9. We have really close relationships with both of them. The 208 pipe fitters are on our technical committee for the board, and so really excited about partnerships with them. And Local 9 is an amazing ally as well. We have an open procurement right now for $900,000 specifically to train young people on heat pump technology. Right now, that training doesn't lead to an official certification that's industry recognized. There are some national certifications, but right now it's kind of vague as far as core competencies and kind of going off of what the employer really needs. So this would add some validity and increased hireability for graduates of those apprenticeships with those state-recognized registered apprenticeship certifications and increased expected pay raises as journeymen, contractors, or master HVAC technicians. All of those possibilities can open up that don't exist right now. And we would want to co-create that with our labor unions too. I will also say our labor unions account for 10 to 20% of all work that's done in the state. And so 80% of the work is done by non-union contractors. And so we'd want to make sure this solution is grassroots for our local permitting and licensing offices, but also grassroots for the industry that it's going to affect the most. As far as an ambitious on-ramping time, I've heard year-long phasing in happens in the past. That's not at all what I'm proposing for this. I don't think I'm qualified to determine the amount of time it would take to phase this in. I would want that to be extensive stakeholder engagement in order to reach what we feel would be best for the industry for that. And then there was one other question. Training our the inspectors, yes. It's funny you mentioned that. This is actually happening right now or this year with plumbers, and they are now requiring that plumbers have the plumbing license to do the inspection because for that exact reason. Licensed plumbers were feeling offended that a non-licensed plumber was coming in and telling them if they did or didn't do their job correctly, which frankly I have to agree with. Fortunately, we do have some funding for local, through the Building Policy Collaborative. If a local jurisdiction wants to get funding to train their inspectors on this, we do have funding available for that. That is open right now.
All right, we have Director Mulvey up next, then Harmon, Director Barr, and then Director Starker. Director Mulvey.
Thank you for addressing trades. I'm a big supporter of the trades, but and I'm still going to highlight things because I'm still thinking about this, because I know folks in the trades, especially some young ones. My first thought to ask people to think about is this making it harder for the workers, for the people who want to go into the trade, or easier? And for that reason, the reciprocity option seems to be a better solution to me. My second thing is, why DRCOG? You answered some of that, but in connection with that, I'm wondering, I know some folks in trades where there's a really strong need for EV techs. Why not support EV technical trade and then support more directly some of our goals here at DRCOG? This seems to be slightly outside of the goals. Whereas housing was a stretch, now this is a further stretch in my mind, and so that's on my mind. And that then leads me to the thought of, is this a slippery slope where we're changing our mandate altogether from an MPO? And so then I go back to what is the role of our organization? And so those are the things I'm thinking about. Thank you. Not really questions, just more things that I'm asking everybody else to think about as we're considering this.
All right. Director Harmon.
Well, good evening. Clay, thank you so much for the great presentation. I'll second our executive director's thoughts and Director Levy's on your haircut, because I own a hair salon, and guess what hair salons are regulated by? DORA. And so how perfect for this conversation. In all seriousness, though, I do want to mention the expansion of HVAC licensing has really taken off, especially within the school district. The Douglas County School District, with passing a bond, has also added HVAC, which is fantastic to be able to add to the trades. As we all know, they're squeezed tight. There's not enough of them. So to me, where I understand Director Mulvey's point of making sure that we're focused on our North Star, I think this is a unique opportunity. The decarbonization funding is also a unique opportunity. So I would ask everyone to consider thinking outside the box to support this. When I called our chief building officer for the city of Lone Tree, he was in huge support of us taking this forward. The reason, for a few reasons, It would make things much easier for these contractors. For example, if you want to register in the city of Lone Tree, it's $10. But if you want to register in Douglas County, it's $250 annually. These costs do add up. I'm a small business owner. We all want to support our business owners and our contractors. So reducing the cost burden, I think, is a huge point. Also, having a unified regulatory DORA that we can point to, I think, is another huge reason that we should consider supporting this. So I would ask the board to consider getting behind this evening. So thank you so much, Clay, for the great presentation.
Thank you very much, Director Harmon. I will add that Community College of Aurora either has a program or is developing a program to train folks as well. Director Barr.
Yeah, I just wanted to show my really strong support for the work that the DRCOG team has been doing, and Clay especially. But I think to Director Mulvey's point about this being, is this scope creep? I think it's actually it's a very fair point that we should all be considering, right? You know, and I think when we took on the entirety of the decarbonization grant program, yeah, it was certainly stepping outside of kind of normal state of business, which has further kind of pushed us into a new place here. I will say though, this feels like it's cutting out. I will say though that I think a lot of this decarbonization program, when we were taking on this, we were looking at workforce very holistically as an organization. And I think including myself, didn't know that we were going to be traveling to this degree. But that's not, to me, a bad thing, right? This is how we kind of move our state and our region forward. I think and I don't want to repeat all the great points that Clay had up on his presentation, but one of the things that I was considering when we were meeting in our decarbonization program oversight board meeting is that by standardizing this at the state level, this is not only great for us interjurisdictionally in terms of saving our contractors time, money, effort, us in terms of oversight and management of those licenses at the local level, but this is going to give young folks entering this space the opportunity to either, I'm not saying that they'll leave, but their license has fewer boundaries. And that also has the opportunity to help bring folks into our state through this program. It is very difficult, I know, in like the water operator kind of certification world, even in the engineering world. My wife's a licensed professional as well. Colorado is a challenging place to come to, getting reciprocity for your licensure. And honestly, this is kind of just one more step in making it easier for kind of the workers that we want to see fuel our economy come to our state to work. So it's good for, I think, us locally, but I think it's great for our state in building that workforce up, from even outside.
Thank you, Director Barr. I have Director Starker next, then Director Sherazai, and Director Douglas.
Thank you for your presentation, Cole, and the suit looks great. Thanks. Are you in the scheme that you're talking about? Are you licensing individuals or licensing the companies that they work for?
So as of right now, it would be licensing the company, and with the goal of getting all technicians within that company that state license as well. But as it is right now, it's not required. You need to have a master electrician for electricians at least supervising the work that's being done. So it would be a licensed supervisor watching maybe an unlicensed technician in order to get their required hours to reach that license level.
Okay, so this would be licensing a company to operate an HVACR operation, both commercial and residential and industrial, or just residential, or are you making a distinction there?
We have included all of the possibilities of both installation and maintenance of residential, commercial, and industrial work, and all the nuances that go into those basically three very different professions, but similar work. And yes, it would be at least one individual from the entity that is conducting that work.
Okay, and then how would you know that the company, that all of the employees that were doing the work on the job site were qualified to do it?
That comes down to permit verification and whoever's doing the inspection on the work and the paperwork on the completed work. And if that's the local jurisdictions that's doing that enforcement, or if that's DORA, they would have those requirements laid out on who was on the job and verifying, normally through self-reporting. Okay, so you're not thinking about DORA having a whole group of inspectors to go out and
and monitor the workers in the field?
DORA offers that right now for electricians and plumbers, and they do have inspectors all over the state, and they offer that to jurisdictions. But if a jurisdiction wants to do their own enforcement with their own resources, as long as they're following the protocols, then they're welcome to do that.
Okay.
For the current system, again, this could be a different practice with the future system. It's going to depend on the stakeholders in the industry.
Okay, but we're really just talking about not the workers on the job being licensed, but just the company having a license to operate business.
Correct, and there would be one individual with the license on the job
One with
site.
a license.
Yeah.
So you might have 50 guys in the field, and there would be sort of one mandatory license holder like that, like a supervisor's license.
Correct.
Okay, and then there would still be a requirement to register locally.
A license, as far as getting a mechanical license, you would submit your state license to that local jurisdiction. So as far as registering locally, it's really just submitting your paperwork to say that you have a state license, and then it works like that reciprocal licensure that would be accepted by the jurisdiction.
Okay, but you still need to be driving down the highway and having your wife fax that over so that you can get that registration, that license in that jurisdiction to go do the work.
You would still need to submit that license to the jurisdiction, yes.
Got it. And then now you would mention the word design. Are you thinking that the licensee would be qualified to do design work to design these systems?
Design, I more so am referring to sizing of equipment based on the different specifications of the household and or commercial building. Is there ductwork? Is there not? How's the house's building envelope? That all informs the size of equipment that's recommended. Without any of those requirements, a lot of times they're doing the rule of thumb test, and oversizing is the default. Oversizing really does not work with heat pumps as well as it does with gas furnaces, and there can be some real complications.
And since we're talking about, commercial and residential property, the registered professional engineers that do HVACR design work, will you be cutting into their book of work, if you will?
No.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you've talked about, you sort of had a union forward, talking about apprenticeship training. It's a union forward discussion that you've been having, but 80% of the work, and particularly in residential work throughout the state, is done by open shop contractors. Will we be trying to promote apprenticeship training both on the union side and on the open shop side?
Yes, absolutely. We love Colorado Apprenticeship Hub, which offers any institution to become a registered apprenticeship, union or non-union, with free consulting services. And I'm a big believer that the trades are so desperate for labor right now that the friction between union and non-union, they're kind of coming together just in a desperate effort to fill the trades gap, from my experience, from what I've seen personally.
Well, I would love to see that, but it doesn't seem to happen out of the State House. Let me put it that way. And talking about scope creep, I kind of worry about scope creep in DRCOG, but I also worry about the scope creep in the state. The state has seen a local, or lately a desire to mandate state operations that dictate what happens on the local level. And so is this another opportunity for the state to sort of say, well, this worked for electricians, worked for plumbers, now we got HVACR, and the other licenses generally that the state produces or requires are more professional licenses for professional engineers, landscape architects, hairstylists, and those others, because they are pros. So anyway, that was just more of a comment, but thank you.
All right. I have Director Sherazai, Director Douglas, Director Spear, and Director Kern online. First, Director Sherazai.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I just wanted to double click support. I think that this is a positive conversation, and I appreciate all the work that's gone into that. There are a couple of things that struck me just around even like a sort of flattening and some equity around procurement processes. You spoke a little bit about some of the big shops are able to compete and get their licensure in place, and some of our smaller folk, mom and pop businesses, like this is a burden for them. And so to me, this seems like a step in a positive direction, and procurement is something we've talked about a number of times in this organization. And I do think just around the the scope creep, I understand, I think that's a super fair question, but I also think that we're talking about the management of a $200 million EPA grant, which does change the direction and the sort of core understanding of the work that we're doing. There is a tremendous gap in this workforce, and there has been horrifying examples of other industries that aren't regulated. Let's point to the funeral homes. I think that there's an opportunity here for us to think more expansively about that. I obviously don't want to erode local control, but I also don't want us to use that as a place to hide an opportunity for us to be innovative. Being one of the 17 states that doesn't regulate this seems alarming to me. I just had an oversized furnace put into my home from someone who didn't understand even like the heat pump realm, but you know, for me, it feels like there's an opportunity for consistent education here, and this is the place for that. So really appreciate the work for this. And I would just add, I'm wearing new pants and no one mentioned it, but the amount of times you all have commented on Clay is alarming. So.
I'm sure they're perfect. I'm coming in a ball gown.
Director Douglas.
Several.
Well, thank you, and I came in late, so, and no one said anything. And I appreciate that. So, I sit on the decarbonization committee as well, oversight. And we did have some challenges early on. Questions were asked about, you know, putting this in homes. Yes, you're trying to save people money. And I would say disproportionate impact to communities, but then you're also adding a cost because right now, of course, gas is cheaper than electric sometimes. But the goal is to make sure the homes are energy efficient. So when these units go in, they go in where they can be more effective. And then solar, some places are allowing people to sign up for solar gardens, so you get a credit there. So you don't want to hit when it comes to the financial burden by installing these units, and then your electricity goes up. I know I have an EV, and my rate has gone up because I'm driving a lot, whatever, you know, that happens. But it's also a learning curve. I am for this. I had a licensed plumber come in and install a water softener in my house. He actually installed it reverse. So all those pellets end up going all through the system in the house. And every one of the faucets had to be changed out. They had to replace the dishwasher, anything that water, those beads got into the washing machine. So, and that person was a licensed plumber. So I think this program right here, being licensed in the company, is because we are behind in this we are behind in this category, not technology, but category. So this would actually boost that up and make things more competitive in Colorado and actually even the playing field. I don't like the way the legislators come in on, you know, plumbing and not have a licensed plumber, and that was tossed around this last legislation session. So I'm behind this, and I think this right here, it's just almost like when you fix this and you do it right, you're actually helping out several other hundreds of people who are looking for an opportunity, and this opens the door. So I'm in full support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Douglas. Director Spear.
Thank you. And what I really appreciate about what you've done here, Clay, is you've identified a problem that was going to get in the way of our ability to carry out the work of this $200 million grant, and are thinking about how we can fix this, right, so that we can still achieve those goals. So I really appreciate, thanks for your initiative in noticing that obstacle and then thinking about how to overcome it in a way that benefits not just DRCOG's work, but really the work that's going to be happening all across the state. So to me, this is kind of the best of regionalism, what we're seeing right here. And for me, this is just really a smart solution. It will allow us to kind of resolve this hurdle once, and it will take a little bit of time to do that, but then it's solved for decades, right? Versus kind of going out and doing this piecemeal every time with every jurisdiction all along the way. In the end, that is going to be more work for DRCOG to do this grant than it would be if we just spent a little bit of time trying to fix it and then move forward. So just really appreciate that. And also, just for the group, I also got a haircut. Thank you.
My God, it's so cute.
Thank you. Director Kern, did you have a comment or question?
Yes, thank you. And I really appreciate you letting me participate remote since I wasn't able to be in Colorado today. I really thank you, Clay, for this great presentation. And I would like to thank all of my colleagues for the thoughtful questions and comments. This is a complicated topic. One of the things I'd like to point out is that most of our residents and our communities that are having HVAC installed, they already think that the people who are coming into their homes and doing this or building in new construction are licensed, and they are truly determined experts in the field already. And they're really surprised when things don't go well. I think in Director Sherazai's case, like an oversized system, they're surprised that there's no standard, no state standard being applied. And I really applaud the DRCOG organization for embracing this, not only because I think that this does help the people in the trades, but this is going to be a huge benefit to all of our residents and the consumers. I also would like to interject that we need to make sure that these certifications are definitely including the high efficiency standards. I think a lot of the people now that are coming into homes installing, they don't have exposure or experience. And I'm not sure if it's part of the programming as it is and part of the state licensing that that is an option for them at the time, like the mechanical license, if installing cold climate air source heat pumps and ERVs and HRVs, and understanding that ductwork is different sizes when you're doing this, especially when they're retrofitting homes. In new construction, it might be a little bit easier. I just was curious to know if that was going to be, but I really applaud Director Starker and his comments and asking if it was strictly for businesses or for the individual. I would strongly encourage us to support individual licensing, not just by a company, so that there's a supervisor. If you have somebody who's building in multiple homes, like a large community, you can have a lot of the same mistakes, and the licensed person is not really seeing the day-to-day work that the team is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kern. Director Diet.
Hey, let me try to bring this home here. A lot of discussion, fantastic. You know, I think there are three options here. So I think that the do nothing approach based on the discussion and questions and outstanding issues is probably off the table. I think let's move forward whole hog with Dora, and let's lead the charge. I think it's a little bit premature, but I think that potentially is an open item. The other option we have is for DRCOG, because we are the decarbonation grantees, if you will, or grantors or award winners, whatever we are for the decarbonization award. You know, I think we have a role in this. DRCOG just doesn't meander off our charge. I mean, if there's something to be done on a regional level, there has to be funding behind it in order for us to participate. So even if we're kind of going off of the aging and planning and transportation, we have to do so with the backing of the board and with funding in place, so we can take charge and move forward with that. So to me, being here for the longest time, I'm pretty confident that that's how we would continue to do this. So I mean, with all of the residential, commercial questions, union, non-union, local control, I think there's some information that we need as a board before we can sort of kind of crystallize what our role is in this. So, you know, I think the option that we have before us, just hearing from the board, is we should ask staff to do a little bit more research, and then come back to us with this discussion in mind, when they have more information, when they can answer some of these questions that we've brought up. I would be supportive of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Dyack. Executive Director Rex.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much, and appreciate Director Dyack's comments there. I mean, it's always good about bringing it home, right? And let's figure out what we're trying to do here. Clay is so well versed in this, and I'll tell you, that dialogue between him and Mayor Starker was unbelievable. It truly was. That was wonderful, and it actually showed, at least me personally, how little I know about the subject that I thought I at least had 30,000-foot level information about. You know, this is one of these topics that I don't want us to move forward just on majority vote. I think it's one of these that I'd like to reach consensus on as a group, and make that our local governments all feel comfortable with this concept. And I know, you know, this is kind of late in the game to do a July 1st application, you know, given the questions. And I know, because privately, a couple of folks have reached out with some trepidation associated with this, just having questions, right, about what it is and what it isn't. And yeah, I mean, to Director Dyack's point, I think I'm kind of personally leaning in a situation. It's probably not exactly what Clay wants to hear me say, but to a situation in which maybe we do some additional research and stakeholder this, like offline, outside the DORA official process, and reach consensus with our board and make sure that not only our board in this region, but other parts of the state are familiar with what we're attempting to do, and get some buy-in from those folks too. And also, you know, we can always then, of course, we have the opportunity in December to initiate something with DORA at that point. We can run our own bill as well, if we feel confident in that. So yeah, so there's a number of options here right now, but you know, I think there's one here that was suggested by Director Dyack that's kind of a happy medium.
Thank you. Any addition? Yes, Director Levy.
Yeah, thanks. Director Rex, I appreciate you not wanting to, go forward with a divided board. I asked some questions, and they were answered to my satisfaction. And I just wanted to say too, in response to a lot of the other questions or concerns that were raised, the DORA Sunrise process really goes into those things, and they convene a whole, diverse spectrum of stakeholders always, and they do a lot of very in-depth statistical analysis of, harms and complaints, and consider all the things about, burdens on people and benefits and all of that. So I do feel a lot of these questions, DORA really is the best entity to try to respond to that, rather than, us trying to do some kind of stakeholder process. So I'm disappointed if this does come off the table, because I think it's an opportunity for us to really maximize the funds that we have, to make sure that we really have competent contractors who are able to do this. And, if we wait till December to submit, and then DORA does a 6-month review, we've lost the 2026 session. So then we got to wait till 2027, and then it's going to take another year, for them to stand it up and phase it in and all of that. So I do worry about that. I mean, I respect your role here, your leadership role in directing staff, but I just wanted to put that on the table.
Director Spear.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say too, and it's possible it's getting late and I was just zoning out a lot while people were asking questions, but I actually heard a lot of support and really didn't hear that many concerns. And I think some of the concerns, to Director Levy's point, really would come out through this application process. And so I'm just wondering, if there's anything else that you are needing, Director Rex, to sort of see that, because I didn't hear that much from people who were thinking this is a problem, or I need a lot more information before we can move forward. I heard a lot of positive feedback in the room. So I'm not sure how we can go about getting a sense of that, Chair, but just wanted to note that that wasn't quite my perception of our discussion.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, thank you, Director Spare. Now, I agree. I think it's probably more with just, you know, it's the fear of the unknown for myself personally, because I'm not familiar with the process. I mean, even hearing the words that Director Levy just said gave me some comfort, right? I just don't know, you know, once it gets into a state process, you know, what the control thing, right? But, you know, how can we continue to move the ball forward and feel comfortable as a region that our viewpoints are being inadequately, you know, expressed?
You know, if maybe that was an invitation for me to add a little more comment on that, I don't know. But, and, you know, Director Kerr also was a member of the legislature. You know, in my experience, you know, DORA takes this sunrise process very seriously. And, you know, as we saw from the 1990s, a denial of a sunset on it, and they're not going to regulate if they don't think it's really warranted. And then just because if they do recommend that there be a statewide licensure program, that's not the end of the story. You still have to get the, you know, 35, what is it? 35, 18, and 1, 33, 18, and 1, whatever it is. Yeah, no, you still have to get the, you know, it'll be thoroughly debated in the legislature. So, you know, it's not like we are, you know, going to cause some unintended consequence. There will be very thorough debate and discussion on it. So, you know.
Thank you, Director Levy. The one thing as chair, I just want to say, the one thing that I thought was a deadline of this round of July 1st, and I heard very clearly that there could be challenges to getting an application, doing whatever we need to do by July 1st. So I think that is one, and I didn't hear anyone saying take it off the table. Director Binky.
Now you are.
Thank you. Okay, I wasn't going to ask this because I feel like everybody already knows and I'm just going to make myself look dumb, but can somebody like very gently explain to me, if there is a license for this, do jurisdictions have to accept that license? Or can they still have more or less requirements for their own jurisdiction?
Clay, is that for you?
I'll take that. There can always be more requirements. What we're talking about is a floor, though, and a floor would be the minimum requirements of licensure credentials, so not less.
Follow-up question. Are there already licenses required that are not like HVAC, but that they would still have to have for certain things? Like, if they are going to do something with electricity, don't they still have to be a licensed electrician, even if it's with like an HVAC company?
There are additional credentials. For example, the EPA 608 certification is required to handle refrigerants, and that's a national credential that you're required to have, and refrigerants are in all of our air conditioners. So that is an additional certification.
But so they already have to have that right now, right?
They do, yes. Well, everyone should have that, yes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's correct.
Right.
And just regarding the DORA comment, since I'm talking, I just in terms of research, and you know, I've been a little less vocal about this because we haven't gotten the full blessing from DRCOG, but I've been working with a working group for the last 9 months conducting extensive research, and about 5 months ago, a lead communications representative from DORA joined that working group. So we've been having our research and work guided by DORA for the last 5 months. Their team is aware that this is a conversation and they're preparing for that. I've made it clear also that there's a possibility it might not be DRCOG that is following through with that, and that we need approval from our local governments first and foremost. And so, but they have been guiding us along the way, and I agree. And the application is in final draft form, getting a few more applicants just to be prepared because we have a deadline coming up. So it will be ready if possible.
Director Barr.
Like, are there any opportunities to essentially pull our application after we submit on July 1st to DORA. So can we stop this process once it gets started going through the sunrise process?
So DORA has let us know that the first 3 months of the kind of the two segments that the year is chunked into, the first 3 months, so July through probably September, is going to be spent on sunset reviews. And around October is when they start doing sunrise reviews. So really, it's about a 3 to 4 month review. So within that time frame, I haven't gone down this question of can we take it back. I do talk to DORA pretty regularly though, so I can certainly ask them.
I would contend, just to kind of follow on that, look, any state agency will always take less work rather than more. And, if we start this, what we lose right now is the fact that, like, we have a deadline, there is a window, this policy is being drafted right now, and not taking the opportunity, to Director Levy's point, puts us not just months, but could be years out into the future, which could honestly jeopardize some of the workforce components of this program. And there's always the option that this takes a different form in the end, but I don't think we as a board lose anything by pursuing this now and then seeking to draw it back if we need to, or folks can vote against it down the road.
Director Binkley, then Director Levy.
Oh, I'm sorry, so many buttons on here. I'm just a math teacher, okay. I am licensed, but depending on the district, it could be different, yeah. That was my question. So, my next question was, I feel like similar to yours, which is, do we have a count on, like, how many businesses might be put out of business if they can't get one of these licenses? Because just the way our economy is right now, I would hate for anyone to be I mean, we're about to have a lot more people needing a job from Denver. So, like, I would just hate for anybody else to be out of a job. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and like, how many people have actually been killed by this? Like, you did say there is, like, safety concerns, but, like, exactly what are they? Like, what's the data on that?
So we do include examples of harm in physical form, financial form, social form in the application. One of the prime examples of harm we've used is the Marshall fires that were in Boulder County. And could you remind me of the first question, please?
How many companies
would lose their jobs?
Would not be able to get that
would not be able to get the license?
Yeah.
So an entity, I think it's a matter of being willing to get the license, and I imagine the pushback would likely come from bad actors who are used to cutting corners and doing unlicensed work, in which case I would want those actors out of the industry if they refuse to take the proper training and credentials. I want certified people working on furnaces. However, that said, we want everyone who wants a career in this industry to be able to achieve that license, and we would not want financial barriers to be the reason why someone wouldn't pursue a license or anything of that nature. And so I think the phasing in process would take that into account of really stakeholdering, especially with small businesses, to say, how do we design this phase-in approach in a way that is, I don't know, my brain is getting fuzzy at this point, but it's acceptable for, small businesses. We don't want any barriers or putting anyone out of business at all. In fact, I think this would open up new businesses and increase economic development across the state.
Director Levy, then Director Flynn.
Yeah, well, thank you. I know Director Dyack was trying to bring this home, and sorry. I'm gonna try to do that. So I am actually going to put a motion on the table, just getting a sense of, from the comments that I've heard, and I am going to move that DRCOG proceed with an application to DORA for a licensure program for HVAC professionals.
Second.
Who was it that second? Sorry, Director Martinez? Multiple seconds? Director Spear? Director Flynn has comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director Levy. I was going to make the motion myself. You beat me to it. And great job bringing us home, John.
Let me just tell everybody,
I don't like your haircut either.
so many years ago, Englewood had a mayor, Randy Penn. And Randy Penn sat next to me at the old building. And Randy, I came in and I looked at the agenda and I said, this is a light agenda. We're going to be out of here quick. And Randy said, don't say that. And he used some expletives. And it was discussion, very easy discussion on who was going to vote before the Zoom call type of thing. And the discussion went on for like an hour and 45 minutes. And Randy was very angry at me for that statement because I jinxed everything. And tonight, I sit down and Deb Mulvey said the same thing to me. And she said, I have an appointment at 8:30. And I said, don't say that because Randy Penn, looking down upon us, is going to not be happy with us. And look what we have, Deb.
There was a similar discussion in the executive team as well, so. But all that was said was the agenda looks really good, is all that was said, so. Director Spear, you were gonna try to second, is that what it was, or do you have a comment?
Yes, no, I was just seconding.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Director Starker.
Are you taking discussion on the motion?
Discussion on the motion is open.
I think licensure, if you're looking to have qualified technicians in the field, I think you need to have a licensure for the individual. You might have registration for the company so that you keep track of the company, but I think you need to have apprenticeship and education opportunities for the individual. And I think you could probably do that on a state basis, like you do, but I think you need to worry about the design elements that you're getting into, where you're getting into registered professional engineering. And I think you really need to have individuals that are licensed. So I will not be supporting the motion.
Other discussion, Director M. Harmon.
Is that something that could be considered to be added to this application?
I was going to say, we would love to have you as part of the discussion on how we design this, as we do need local input as to how we're going to implement this and what the jurisdictions want. So that is something we could require, yes.
We could look at adding this.
That could be, yes.
If supported tonight.
If supported tonight. So I'm looking for more discussion. I see a hand in the back. My eyesight, Kathy.
Yes, thank you. I would be curious to have that information on that as part of our ongoing study of this, because we have a severe housing shortage, and I really don't think that every person on a job site holds a license. I believe they're supervised by a licensed, and I believe in licensure, and I will support Director Levy's motion tonight, but I think that's something that we really need to look at very hard about what's actually occurring in the industry, the safety record of crews as they are run now, and if we want to improve the process and open up the job market with reciprocal licensing and so on and so forth, that's to the benefit of getting things built here in Colorado, and we don't want to be hindering ourselves by adding unnecessary layers, and so I think it's just something to look at regarding safety and current practices.
Dr. Levy.
Yeah, thank you. On that issue, I would not want to pin us down as having that a requirement in our application, because I can also see where that could become a real financial burden on the installer, especially somebody they're just looking for a job and they're going to get paid hourly or something. And if they have to have that license in hand to do that work, that may be a real cost prohibitive barrier to entry. So I don't know how, like an electrical company handles each individual person on the job. I don't have that information, but I think I wouldn't want us to get into the weeds and be super prescriptive about it.
So I hear your motion stands and the second will stand, I believe, with the discussion that this would be licensure by a company? Or
I
are you leaving it
I was
open?
just leaving it out that we would apply, we would submit the application for Sunrise Review to see whether licensure is warranted in this field. And I think that, you know, the folks at the table then would discuss, you know, the mechanism and all of that. And they come up with the, you know, how much it would cost based on estimates of how many people in the.
Yeah, and I think that's what I heard too. So there's opportunity, enough latitude to have those conversations of company versus.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please, should we do it by acclamation or by voice? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay. Ayes have it. And online, do we have? Yay. We have one vote in favor online. And three? Okay. All opposed, please raise your hand, just so we get a count. Okay. 2, 3. We have 5 that are on record as being opposed. The motion carries. Thank you very much. Great discussion. I think it's really interesting how we can get to a decision like this, and I think everybody was heard. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on our agenda, our informational briefings. First up is Community-Based Transportation Planning Program Update. We've got Nora Kern, Planner, Transportation Planning and Operations. This is attachment E in your packet. Good evening, I forgot the name, Kern.
There we go. How about that? Good evening. My name is Nora Kern. I'm the program manager for the sub-area and project planning team. And today, just providing a little bit of a check-in update on one of our newer transportation planning programs to let you all know how it's going, and then also just highlight an upcoming call for projects and kind of get people thinking about that in advance. So just a refresher, our community-based transportation planning program is, like I said, one of our newer sort of technical assistance programs. Its goal is really supporting the region and in particular our member governments to help with transportation planning to improve mobility and transportation options for low-income and marginalized communities in our region. So these projects have a really wide range, which you'll see here in a second, everything from school transportation to microtransit to corridor studies, but that core focus is to really kind of help the folks who have the most barriers to getting to where they need to go. So just a quick recap of the structure. We started this program in 2022 with a pilot, which was a really great way to kind of try out some of these projects, work with a couple stakeholders, and develop some kind of best practices. Since then, we have formalized this program as part of the 2024 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program, which allocated $2.5 million. So the structure today is these projects are nominated by local governments, regional agencies, or actually community-based organizations can nominate directly. Like several of our newer tech tip set-aside programs, these funds are actually retained by DRCOG, and we work very closely with the nominating organization or agency to help manage these projects, help with the funds, take the burden of having to do an IGA with CDOT, and all that sort of paperwork off the local government, and do that in-house here at DRCOG. And of course, a very important component of all these plans is community engagement, given that the focus is folks who often haven't been very involved in transportation planning historically. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of our pilot projects. I won't go into these very deeply, but if you have more questions, would be happy to follow up with you about these. Both of these have been wrapped up. So our first one was a great partnership with the City of Edgewater, was Edgewater School Transportation Plan. So this one was really looking at traffic and safety around 2 elementary schools after the closure of another nearby elementary school. So we wrapped this up last year. And the recommendations range from safe routes to schools programming to improved infrastructure on the schools, and have actually resulted in a still in place temporary sort of pop-up infrastructure to help address some of the most serious kind of traffic and safety issues at the school that receive the most new families. Our second pilot project, we called the North Federal Community Transportation Plan. And this was a really unique partnership between Adams County, the City of Westminster, and a nonprofit called Growing Home. And the idea was to take the area kind of roughly along Federal Boulevard, north of Denver, south of around 80th. It's kind of a mixture of the City of Westminster and unincorporated Adams County. We heard from Growing Home that there was a Walmart in this area that closed, and it actually created a bit of a food desert and pharmacy desert. So Growing Home is not a transportation organization. They're in the food and kind of direct service space, but they reached out to the city and said, hey, we're seeing folks are really having trouble getting to their essential destinations. So can we do some planning to think of what transportation solutions are out there to help some of these essential needs? So our recommendation, we just wrapped this project up about a month or two ago, is for a micro-transit zone that you can see here on the map. It is a mix of Adams County and the City of Westminster, but we have recommended that Adams County think about taking the lead on this project, and we've been talking with their staff about what that would look like. But you can see here the types of service that could be provided, obviously depending on funding and kind of continued conversations around implementation, but having some sort of like on-call SUV or van available for folks. The dots you see here, they're not labeled on this map, but these are really representing the essential services as well as some low-income housing that's in this area. So grocery stores, clinics, shopping, that sort of thing. So after the pilot program, we have launched this next phase, and we have 5 projects that were selected and you all approved 6 to 12 months ago. So these projects have actually all started. We just kicked off the last one about a week ago. So we're doing a corridor study in the city of Federal Heights. We're working with Denver as well as a group of nonprofits on an implementation plan for 2 community-developed transportation projects, the 303 Artway and the Montebello Loop. We're doing a core circulation plan in Brighton, working with Adams County on a Pecos corridor study, and then we've just kicked off another microtransit study with the city of Commerce City. We're really excited about this program. We have, these projects are all a little different, but we have seen a number of challenges that we kind of continue to think about and work with our partners on how to address. One of the hardest things is community engagement is really hard, particularly if you're talking about, working families, low-income folks who haven't historically been very active or aware of transportation planning. So really finding new ways to talk to folks. We have, of course, as I'm sure you all can relate, funding is a challenge. So that's, something we've heard a lot about and continue to think about. There's also one of the challenges with these projects is often some of our most needy folks in our communities have immediate needs. So they really want to see improvements next month, next 6 months. And we all know that transportation planning usually works in the order of years, if not decades. So I think that mismatch can be tough. And then we have seen that a lot of these transportation challenges cross jurisdictional boundaries, and that can get complicated. Where people need to go isn't always confined by where a city or county line might be. Some of the opportunities we've been exploring is working with nonprofits. So we had a great partnership, like I said, with Growing Home. We've also worked with Edgewater Collective, some other groups now who really have access to some of the communities we're hoping to engage. We've been out in community a lot, trying a lot of different types of engagement, working with students, kind of being out in different types of places for DRCOG. We have been piloting some incentives, having child-friendly events, providing food, doing bilingual communication, Spanish first outreach. And then just working with non-traditional partners. We've had great input from the Maker Housing Properties in Adams County, for example, from libraries and food banks. So folks that we don't necessarily always engage with on transportation sometimes know their communities really well. And then the example in Edgewater was a great example of thinking about how we can support the member governments thinking of short-term wins as well as possibly pop-up infrastructure. So that's just a quick kind of a flavor of what we've been up to. Because it's new, we wanted to kind of just bring it back to let you all know how it's going. We are expecting a call for projects for the second half of funding. So it'll be about another $1.25 million available. That call for projects is going to be this fall. So if you have ideas, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to talk to you if there's a project you think in your community that could be a good fit. And then just a final note, we have a couple other technical assistance set-asides that are kind of the same format. And so we are hoping to kind of have a combined call for 3 of those at the same time this fall. So with that, happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Director Sherazai.
Yes, thank you. Great presentation. In my day job, I'm an executive director of a nonprofit. We're partnering with Dottie on their North Denver Safe Streets project in this very way. And so I love that you all are identifying nonprofits. I would encourage that because there is so much uncertainty right now in our funding sources. And we are community conveners in these spaces. So we've seen a lot of response. My nonprofit works in Global Area Swansea. You can imagine there's limited trust there. And so not only is it helping us get out into the community, but a lot of times we're activating our young people to do this. So it's helping to build collaborative relationships. So the more that we can emphasize those nonprofits doing that work on the ground, I think the better. So thanks for that.
Director Conklin.
Just a real quick thank you on behalf of Edgewater and the kids, both from Edgewater and the neighboring communities. It was great working with you all, and I think a lot of positive things came from that, so thank you.
Director Maurer.
Thank you. Nora, just curious, I really like this program, and, probably when it was brought to us before, it just probably went right past me. Sorry about that. So if I want to go look at this in a little more in depth, where can I go to look at, like, the 2025 set-asides? How do I find out more about those?
About the ongoing projects? Probably the easiest spot is to go to engage.drcog.org. And so that's kind of our main public-facing community engagement website. And all of the projects that have been kicked off have pages there. You also see other things, our engagement plan and other efforts. The one with Commerce City, I don't think we quite have a website up, but should within a matter of weeks. And then, of course, you're also welcome to reach out to me if you can't find anything there.
Thank you.
Questions, comments? Great, thank you, Nora. We appreciate your presentation.
Thanks.
Next up, we have announcement of the 60-day review period of the Regional Housing Needs Assessment. This is attachment F in your packet. And tonight we're going to have Sheila Lynch, Division Director, Regional Planning and Development. Good evening, Sheila. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Baker. And hello, directors. I know I'm sitting between you and your opportunity to go home and rest, so I will try to be brief. But we thought it would be really important to check in on the upcoming 60-day review that we have planned for the Regional Housing Needs Assessment. So there is a memo in your packet, and that should explain a lot. I thought I'd just quickly go through this and then also just give you an update on our outreach to all your member governments. So you heard about the Regional Housing Needs Assessment a lot. I feel like every time I come up here, that's what I'm speaking to you about. So one of the things I just want to call attention to is that in the 2024 legislative session, there was a law passed, Senate Bill 24-174, that requires housing assessment and housing planning at the local level. There are two things that I just want to note that that law allows. First, it allows that if there is a regional assessment, local governments can choose to participate in that. And it also allows that existing assessments can go through a process with DOLA to become substantially conforming to the law. And so our regional housing needs assessment, we finished it before this went into place. We did go through the process from DOLA, and we did officially get communication that is substantially conforming to the law. So that's why we're starting this public review. So the public review, the 60-day, is the process to allow local governments to demonstrate participation in the regional housing needs assessment. And so what the law says is that a local government must review a regional assessment at a public meeting before their governing body, and it must be done in this designated 60-day window. So we have set that window. It will start on July 14th, and it will go until September 12th. And so any local government who wants to use the regional housing needs assessment as their statutorily required assessment will need to review that assessment or our assessment before their governing body at a public meeting. So on that, I just wanted to give a highlight to some of the efforts that we have been taking to make sure that all of our member governments are aware of this opportunity. So the regional planning team has been working very hard to first, they held a webinar in April. They recorded that webinar. It's on our website where they explain this entire process. They have developed sample language for staff reports, for presentations, so that local government staff can use that information for this process. And they have directly reached out to 59 different member government staff to try to get just the information out there to make sure everybody has the information they need to make a good decision. And so with that, I just wanted to summarize what we've heard so far from that outreach. So first off, of the 59 member governments, 10 member governments are exempt per the law. So the law does not require an assessment if you have less than 1,000 people living in your community or you've experienced a negative population change. So of the 49 remaining, we have 16 member governments who have confirmed with us that they are going to review the regional housing needs assessment, and many of them have given us the date. 3 member governments who submitted their own existing needs assessment to DOLA, and we're told that it's substantially conforming. So they don't necessarily need to lean on a regional one. And then we have 30 who are still deciding. And of the 30 that are still deciding, we have heard back from close to 20, almost 20, that they said, we're deciding. Some of them have even attended some office hours that we've held. So they're just in the process, but we've had substantial conversations. There's about 10 that we haven't heard much from, and we'd love to hear from them. And that kind of summarizes where we're at with all the member governments. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Oh, forgot my last punchline is that on July 14th, you and others in your jurisdiction will receive an email from us officially announcing the 60-day public review starting. So if you see that email, that's what it's about. We're just trying to demonstrate to DOLA that we announced that 60-day review. And that's all I have.
Questions? All right. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Sheila. Good presentation. I would encourage you to look at the informational item in your packet. Committee reports requesting that these be brief and reflect any decisions made and specific to the business of DRCOG. We have a report from the State Transportation Advisory Committee, Ron Papsdorf. I'm so glad I'm not the only one that has an issue with the microphone here.
Classic. Thank you. Ron Papsdorf, your soon-to-be departed Director of Transportation Planning and Operations.
Howdy, partner.
STAC met on June 5th. Sorry.
I said howdy, partner.
Yeehaw. STAC met June 5th. Had several informational updates for STAC members from CDOT on statewide plan update, talking about the anticipated available federal and state funds that CDOT will be able to allocate as part of their ongoing update to the state 10-year plan. There was an end of winter maintenance update. There was an update on the state's rest area program, which had largely been unfunded for a number of years, and the commission had added over the last several years some additional funding to beef up the state's rest areas. And most importantly, and where I really want to speak to, because we've talked about it here before, is the legislature's action this past session to reduce funding in the Multimodal Options Fund program. So we've talked about that. There was an update from CDOT staff on that work. I think as we've told you before, the legislature swept some unspent general funding that is in the Multimodal Options Fund program, including significantly, only affecting the locally allocated Multimodal Options Fund money that was allocated through transportation planning regions like DRCOG. That was a $70 million reduction statewide. DRCOG's portion of that represented about $30 million of that reduction. As you recall, the board previously has allocated our share of anticipated Multimodal Options Fund money through fiscal year 27. So this has a real impact on projects that you all have already allocated funds to, even if those funds haven't yet been spent. CDOT is allowing for an opportunity for us to tap into future funding from fiscal year 28 and 29 to mitigate that reduction. So at the end of the day, we anticipate right now that we will probably have to accommodate about a $5 million reduction in projects that have currently been allocated. A lot of work on our staff's part to kind of work through the details of that. But again, so it looks like we may have about a $5 million cut to projects that have already received funding that you have allocated through that program. But I also want to instill in you that still represents a $30 million reduction, because that other $25 million would have otherwise been available to you to allocate to future projects, which you will no longer have available. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Questions? All right, thank you, Tex. Metro Mayor's Caucus, Director Starker.
Thank you, Chair. That's a tough act to follow, but we'll give it a try. The full caucus met on June the 4th of this year. We had a presentation from Rise Above Colorado with Kent McLennan, their Executive Director. We had Deborah Johnson, the General Manager and CEO with RTD, and Steve Martingano, the new Chief of Police at RTD, came and talked about introduced the new chief and the safety updates that they're putting on their platform. We had Herman Stockinger with CDOT come and talk about safety and other updates from CDOT. We had Summer Hill with the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce came to talk about us, and we're going to engage with the Chamber on the State of the Cities event coming up in July. We had Kara Von Stralen with Vista Strategies give us a legislative wrap-up about what occurred this year in the state legislature. And we had a discussion on a new subcommittee in the caucus, the Vitality in Business and Economy Task Force, that if you have any questions, I'm going to direct you to Mayor Harmon. With that, I will conclude my report.
Thank you very much. Metro Area County Commissioners, Director Rex.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. No report tonight. We didn't meet since the last time we met. We meet this Friday.
Advisory Committee on Aging, Jayla.
I got a new haircut too. Okay, so the Advisory Committee on Aging, Doug provided an update on all the things happening in DRCOG. I gave an overview of pretty significant changes in Washington regarding aging. On March 27, our federal entity, the Administration on Community Living, was dissolved. We got a hold of a Health and Human Services budget that was leaked, and it showed us that the administration was thinking about eliminating some key programs, the Ombudsman Program, the SHIP Program, and the Aging and Disability Resource Program. That concerned us. I attended lots of meetings at a national level, consulted policy experts, developed a white paper outlining our concerns. The good news is these three issues, the three issues that we advocated for, were addressed in the president's budget. And I advised the committee that I would be meeting with our staff, legislative staff in DC, and I did, and they went really well. We have a lot of support. Ed Bowditch gave a state legislative wrap-up. And then we had a staff presentation on our Choice Services Transportation Program. There were more budget cuts, so we had to lower the voucher amount. We also were able, this program has 800 people on the waiting list, and trying to figure out how do we add capacity? How do we help people who really need to go to doctor's appointments or, cancer treatment? We added monthly bus passes from RTD, or 12 excessive ride tickets, and we developed a program called Go Light, which provides one trip a month to people. So we built in enough capacity to deal with urgent needs. And then, unfortunately, our transportation call center, On the Go, that's what they're called, closed their doors. And on June 1st, our staff had to take over the operations of the call center to ensure continuity of services, and we're doing that. It's hard, and there's a lot of calls, and my staff are just glued to their desk, but we're getting it done until we can get another call center going. That's my report.
Thank you very much, Jayla. RAC. Doug?
Thank you, sir, very much. The RAC had their monthly meeting on June 6th. A few items of note. First, they sought and received approval of some administrative chapters to the 2015 State Implementation Plan for the 70 parts per billion ozone standard. The SIP is still required, although the state is requesting voluntary reclassification to severe, so there are some administrative chapters that still had to be submitted. We also had a presentation by staff related to a concept that they're kind of hashing around, dealing with on-road and non-road emission targets. So on the on-road side, we're pretty well regulated regarding targets, especially on the greenhouse gas side and all that kind of good stuff. So I think this is really geared towards non-road emissions, most notably on equipment, those types of things. So stay tuned on that. But this is a good, hearty conversation. We're nowhere close to coming up with any final resolution on that yet, but I'll keep filling you in as we go forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. E470, Director Dyack.
Thank you. Director Mulvey has gone because she's at 8:30 appointment. So I'll be happy to try to read her notes, even though I was there. I probably can't figure this out. E470, before the E470 meeting, we had a transportation foundation. What that is there's a nonprofit related to E470 that gives money away to improve safety along roadways and stuff. Each of the health departments, Adams County, Arapahoe County, Douglas County, got money for their programs, as well as to give car seats away to children. This foundation also gives money away to high schools for after prom parties. It doesn't have to be in along the roadway. So if you know anybody who is related to a high school entity next year, look up the E470 Safety Transportation Foundation and have them apply. I think we gave away probably $70,000 or $80,000, so that's an incredible thing to have happened at this or before this meeting. And then at the meeting, we had the Colorado State Patrol who patrols our roadway give us some stats. There's more activity on the roads, which means there's more enforcement, which also creates more safety. The DUIs have gone up slightly. And again, we're just trying to inform and educate and keep people safe. We had a couple of contracts approvals. We approved the Colorado State Patrol's contract for the next year. And we also had some IT and operational contracts being approved. That is all.
Thank you. CDOT, Director Pakbas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do want to note that on Father's Day, there was a landslide that closed Loveland Pass. Unfortunately, the good news is the pass is now open, and so in record time, so that US 40 is now open for traffic to the public. In terms of the Transportation Commission, the commission held both their meeting and their workshops today. The state has a holiday tomorrow. The main item of note is the commission did approve a interagency IGA regarding Front Range Passenger Rail between CDOT, the Clean Transportation Investment Office, the Clean Transit Enterprise, RTD. So from the CDOT side, that has been approved by the commission. And then finally, 3 of the 4 metro area commissioners are going to be, their terms are ending at the end of this month. This was their last meeting. Commissioner Stewart, Commissioner Holguin, and Commissioner Adams, they'll be replaced once the governor makes those appointments. Commissioner Cook, who represents Jefferson County, will continue on, but we'll look forward for the new commissioners and thank the previous commissioners for all their service, and they did an excellent job. So with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. RTD, Director Siroy.
Thank you, Chair. A couple things. One, the August service changes are currently out for review. They are open for review through the 26th of this month. Then once those are reviewed, they will be taken up by the board next month. And then once they vote on it, they will be instituted at the end of August. Again, happy to report we're getting increasing service continuing for I think the 3rd or 4th run board in a row. So we're excited about continuing that trend. The other thing I wanted to mention, many of you have staff that have been involved with our partnership program. We had a call for projects that ended in May. We received 10 applications, a little over $6.5 million worth of projects over kind of the 3-year cycle. So we're excited about that, and we'll be making decisions on those that will come out at the beginning of August.
Thank you for that. Our next meeting is July 16th. Make sure you see Ms. Stevens if you need a parking slip if you park down in the garage. Are there any other matters by any member? If not, we are adjourned.
No, we're right here.